Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back for a Monday edition of the Steel City Sports Report, where we talk everything Steelers, Penguins, and Pirates. I am your host, Brady Vini. Hope you all had a very happy Easter weekend, and today we're back. We are finally in draft week in the NFL. Thursday night cannot come soon enough. We are almost there, what I call the Christmas of the offseason, because you always write out your sort of wish list as what you want your NFL team to do. Doesn't always mean you'll get it, but you're hoping that you get at least one of those. So very exciting times rolling around. Can't wait for Thursday night. Like I said, going to have a big draft stream for that Thursday and Friday night at the very least. Excited to get there. 4 of you in here right now. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so that you never miss when I am live or throw out some other content on the channel. Also, feel free to like and share this stream and comment in the live chat. I love interacting with you fine folks when you do so. It keeps things flowing here and makes me feel a whole lot better than just feeling like I'm talking into a camera here. But nonetheless, got a lot of things to do today. First off, thing we're going to do here in a matter of moments, every Monday leading up to this week for the NFL draft, I've been doing mock drafts. Today, we're going to do things a little bit differently. I'm going to do my top 21 prospects for the Pittsburgh Steelers to take this year. So, Steelers at pick 21, going to put a nice little draft board together of who the top 21 prospects are that I would like the Steelers to take, meaning that if they stick and pick at pick 21, they'll at least get someone off that list. Been thinking a lot about that, how much we ration it out between top players available in the draft and needs for the Steelers at certain positions. So we'll get into that, talk our way through that here in a matter of moments. Also going to talk about some more rumblings of Shedeur Sanders to the Steelers coming Thursday night. As we get closer and closer, it seems that it's more and more likely that Sanders will be there at pick 21 for the Steelers, or at least will be falling past the New Orleans Saints at number 9. Who knows? It is lying season after all, so only time will tell how much of what's out there is true and how much is false. Also going to get into some Pirates and Penguins talk as well. The Pirates, just an absolute horrible weekend, damn near completely unwatchable on the field against the Cleveland Guardians. They got swept in that series. Going to break that down and just how bad things are right now as they're about to head out west to take on the Angels and the Dodgers. And also some important Penguins news, I should say, coming out today. Not really going to get too much really super newsworthy Penguins news from here on out after the season wrapped up on Thursday. But General Manager Kyle DUBAS spoke with the media today about potential offseason plans, what his assessment was of this past season, and more. Going to break down some of his comments as well. And then we'll hit on some more loose stories near the end of the program. But first, we're going to kick things off with my top 21 prospects list for the Steelers. Let me get my screen shared here. Let's go here to the PFF mock draft simulator. Now, I didn't bring up an Excel spreadsheet, but what I did was I forced trades for the top 21 picks here over on the PFF mock draft simulator. So we got 21 picks right here. We're going to go through the list here in a second. Like I said, going to mix it between some picks of actual top prospects and some of what the Steelers actually need. We're going to talk our way through this, try to get this, as well as we possibly can. So going to start off here, again, just doing 21 picks here because the Steelers own pick 21. Let's start with the quarterbacks. In my opinion, 3 quarterbacks here are worthy of going in the top 21, probably will go in the top 21. Doesn't mean I necessarily agree with it, but what the Steelers actually will do also plays a factor into this. So Cam Ward, he's definitely one of those. No way he's not the number 1 overall pick to the Tennessee Titans. but we're going to have him on our list here regardless. Also, you have Shedeur Sanders, who actually could be the Steelers' pick when it's all said and done. And then here is sort of the wild card of the draft. Jackson Dart from Mississippi. Do I put him in my top 21? I'm going to in this case, because if Shedeur Sanders does not go number 9 to the New Orleans Saints, then that pick for the Saints could very well end up being Jackson Dart. Saints new head coach Kellen Moore, offensive coordinator last year for the Philadelphia Eagles. He would like to get a quarterback who's close to Jalen Hurts, if I had to guess, and Jackson Dart is pretty close to that Jalen Hurts mold, mobile quarterback who can also throw it a good bit. And I think that the Saints actually love Jackson Dart more than they do Shedeur Sanders. So also I think he'd be a hell of a fit for the Steelers if you can get him at 21. Could get him later as well, but we're going to come back to Dart, actually. I'm going to leave him sit right there. You definitely have Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders there, but we'll come back to Shedeur if needed. Let's go here to running backs real quick. More and more as this pre-draft process has gone on, Ashton Jeanty, for sure, he's going to be in your top 21 list. Also, I'm going to put Omarion Hampton up here. Very slept on running back. I don't see him on the board at pick 21. I think his last resort would be here at pick 20, where the Denver Broncos usually pick. But Omarion Hampton, any other year that doesn't have an absolute freak of nature, elite superstar running back like Ashton Jeanty, Omarion Hampton is a first-round pick and the first running back off the board. So Hampton, he's going to be in our top 20. Also, I believe one of the comps that I have on my draft night chart here, I believe one of his player comps I have that I've seen of him is Rashard Mendenhall. So, I mean, Steelers are looking to get the running game going. You got two NFL running backs on roster right now, and Jalen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell. You need a third. And also, technically, Cordero Patterson is still on roster, but I don't think he's going to last there much longer. Going to skip on wide receivers for now. We're going to go actually over to the defensive line now. So we've been talking about this all offseason long leading up to the draft, and it hasn't changed. 4 bona fide first-round defensive tackles. All 4 are going to be on the Steelers' watch list. First off, the most unlikely of them, Mason Graham, seems like his floor of where he'll go in this draft is somewhere in this, 6, 7, 8 range here with the Raiders, Jets, and Panthers, though most mock drafts so far have had him going number 5 to the Jaguars. Next, I'm just going to put these in order of how I like them. Doesn't mean necessarily one that who I pick is better than another, but who I like most next out of here is Derek Harmon, 6'5", I believe around 340 pounds. Dude is getting a lot of comparisons to like Cam Hayward when he was a prospect coming out of Ohio State. So who better to pair a tall, large, thick defensive tackle like Derek Harmon, who's got the potential to be a very cornerstone of your defense moving forward. Who better for him to learn from than Cam Hayward? Next up, Walter Nolan. Mike Tomlin seems to love him, was attached to his hip at the Senior Bowl. Rumors are he has some sort of off-the-field issue or issues, but haven't seen anything confirmed, so we're just going to ignore it for now as if it's non-existent, but still doesn't take away Walter Nolan. Dude was an absolute monster on the defensive line at Mississippi, and he's definitely going to be a first-round pick. Could be the Steelers' pick at 21, depending on how the chips fall. And then, of course, the final of the 4 first-round defensive tackles, Kenneth Grant from Michigan. So 2 Michigan guys, Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. I think Grant is the more, run stopper between him and Mason Graham, more of a thicker build to him. there. Let's go corner real quick. Obviously, Travis Hunter is going to be on your board, though he's going to be a top 3 pick. So no chance of getting him. Next here, I'm going to go Will Johnson. I think if you can get a Joey Porter-like player in Johnson there at pick 21, you put him and Peasy Jr. together for the next couple of years. Maybe pay Peasy if he earns it. You got 2 towering corners there for years to come. And I don't think Johnson falls to 21, but if you do put him on the team, you're going to use him. I mean, it'd be very, very unwise to have just Joey Porter Jr., who's coming off a down year. And then also on the other side of the field, you either have your pick of a 34-year-old Darius Slay, who you don't know when he's going to fall off, or injury-prone Corey Trice, who even had his struggles in coverage last season. So Will Johnson's definitely on the board. Also going to put Jahdae Barron here. I believe he's PFF has him listed at 5'11" here. I believe he's around 6 feet tall, but still, though, I think he is a hell of a player and produced there at Texas. Also got quite the bit of accolades there. I have those listed in one of my pre-draft charts, but Jahdae Barron definitely worthy of a top 20 pick as well if he's there. Going with the defensive line idea here, let's go to edge rushers. Again, another guy like Travis Hunter, going to be nowhere close to getting him, but if he were to somehow be there magically at 21, you definitely take him, Abdul Carter. Also here, see, this is where I kind of have trouble here. I think the next guy, edge rusher, who I would like, I know he didn't have much production, but you put him in on a defense with Cam Hayward and TJ Watt. Maybe he can learn a thing or two to increase that production. He's got all the God-given talent to do so, and that's Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M, also top 30 visit of the Steelers. So, yeah, Shamar Stewart, he's definitely up there. Could be a pick at 21 if, 1, 2, 3 of those defensive tackles go off the board. But if he's there, definitely interested in taking him. Kind of like Jackson Dart, I'm going to hold off on Mykel Williams for now. Might end up coming back to him here in a second. But let's just real quick go to wide receiver. Now, you see here, PFF has their top 4 wide receivers. And as a matter of fact, I think on my positional rankings chart for Thursday night's stream, I do think that my order of these top 4 wide receivers is in that order. Burden, of course, had good production, and, had he not had a down year, would probably be worthy of this number 2 spot. However, even though Ted McMillan is number 1 and Luther Burden is number 2, I actually like these guys more and more as fits for the Steelers. So I'm going to start here adding Matthew Golden. He's got George Pickens-like talent and qualities, though I believe he's 3 or 4 inches shorter. I believe he's 6 foot at most. But still, though, Pickens is going to be gone in a year, maybe. I'll talk more about that here in a couple of minutes. But, uncertain future with George Pickens, and Calvin Austin is going into the last year of his deal as well. So, high pick wide receiver in the first round, unlikely. But if Golden is there, he could very easily go in this sort of teen area of the draft. But you got to at least stop and think about it at pick 21, depending on how the board falls. So Matthew Golden's my pick there. And then also Emeka Egbuka. Early on in this draft process, back before the DK Metcalf trade and before the whole quarterback situation got fumbled with Justin Fields going for more money to the Jets and Russell Wilson going to the Giants because you didn't want him. And now you have Aaron Rodgers, who doesn't know what he wants to do. Emeka Egbuka was at the top of a lot of Steelers fans' wish lists, and even though the need for wide receiver has fallen down the list past quarterback, past defensive tackle, if certain things happen and he's still there at 21, I got to take a swing at him. If you're not going to patch up at a weakness, at least make one of your, somewhat strengths into a legit bona fide strength of your roster. I would salivate no matter who's throwing the football, even if it's Mason Rudolph, at the idea of having George Pickens and DK Metcalf on the outside, and at least for year one of his career, having Emeka Egbuka in the slot. That is a formidable wide receiver trio, easily top 10 in the league, possibly top 5. So in a league that's ever more and more by the year shifting towards pass first offenses, if you can get 3 solid wide receivers, you add Egbuka to the fold, he'd be one hell of an addition, in my opinion. All right, so right now I'm going to go. All right, so we're at select all here. I'm going to knock off here with these next 3 or 4 picks, and then we'll leave 2 or 3 remaining. I'm going to knock off just some guys who are going to go near the top of the draft, but, if they somehow magically made it to pick 21, the Steelers would definitely take. Some of them aren't, and these aren't at positions of need, but just because they're such, fantastic prospects, you got to get them under wraps, and then you'll figure out how to utilize them and implement them, get them on the field after that. First of that here, and you can talk me into this actually, being a need, is Tyler Warren, tight end, Penn State. Now with Warren here, kind of almost similar to Pat Freiermuth, you just take away that TE branding, that tight end branding, and you just think of him as a pass catcher and a weapon on offense. Best tight end in this draft class, one of the best tight ends to come out of the draft in years. And sure, put him in a room with Pat Freiermuth and get an absolutely fantastic 1-2 punch at tight end. A, two-headed monster at tight end that we really haven't seen since, it's unfortunate that I have to bring up this tight end duo for multiple reasons, one of which is because they're both Patriots who the Steelers had to deal with for years, and that is Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez in New England. So if you can get Tyler Warren to team up with Pat Freiermuth, Arthur Smith loves running a 2 tight end system in offense. I'd be okay with it. You figure out how to get Darnell Washington on the field from time to time on run downs. But Tyler Warren and Pat Freiermuth there, that would give defenses a lot of trouble lining up safeties and linebackers on those two. Also here, I'm going to add these two, just quick order here. I'm not going to get too much into detail. 2 tackles, Will Campbell and Armand Membo, both fantastic prospects, both probably going to be top 10 picks. But if they're there at 21, if one of them's there at 21, I'd be okay taking a swing. Will Campbell, he's definitely going early, but Membo, you also got, Calvin Banks and Josh Simmons. Those 2 guys at tackle. Gray Zabel could be a very sneaky mid to late round, first round pick. But this especially applies to Membo. You take him, then you will figure out a way to put him as your right tackle because, Broderick Jones, he's in a make it or break it year this upcoming season, at finally back at his left tackle position, but he's trending towards being a bust if things don't go swimmingly this season. So if that's the case, Broderick, he's out of here. Move Troy Fautanu, who was a left tackle in college at Washington. You move him over to left tackle. You put Armand Membo in at right tackle, and then you hope that those guys are your, edge setters for years to come on each side of the line for tackles. Or if, say, Broderick Jones does end up working out, and say, Broderick Jones works out, then you got 2 question marks after heading into this year and after this year at the guard position. Isaac Seumalo, last year of his deal, he could be heading for maybe one last big contract if he still has one left in him. At right guard, you got Mason McCormick, who's a 5th round pick last year, and he showed up and downs after being thrown into the fire with James Daniels getting injured, and you don't know how he's going to be in his second year. So if one of those 2 guards, if they either, leave for free agency or struggle mightily, you move Fa'utanu, who's got great positional versatility, you move him to one of the guard positions, and then you put Membao in there at tackle, or you leave Fa'utanu at tackle and see if Membo's going to be a guard. But those 3 picks right there, Warren, Campbell, Membo, those are pretty much not necessarily needs, and they're going to go in the top 15 of the draft, but you got to have them on your board in case something really, really freaky happens and they end up at 21. They're just such good prospects that you want to have them in the fold there to take at 21 if that's the case. Okay, so 3 picks left here for the top 21. I'm thinking I'm seeing one guy who I would take. Just going to scroll here for a minute. Definitely have one guy in my mind who I want to take, and one other guy who I just saw there that I could take. Let me just real quick go here to some positions of need here. So running back, like I had up here, we got Genty and Hampton. Genty and Hampton, they're definitely 1st round picks. Looking here at the list, I don't see anybody who's a 1st round pick. Maybe Trevion Henderson or Quinshawn Judkins. They could be back end 1st round picks, but not really willing to commit to them at pick 21. So I'm going to hold off on them. I already said here at wide receiver, I like Egbuka and Golden more as fits for the Steelers. Tet McMillan, great prospect, just doesn't think he's a fit for the Steelers. And honestly, at pick 21, if I have the pick between a defensive tackle or a corner or anybody else on this list, if I have the pick between anybody on this list and McMillan at pick 21, I'm going to go with that other person. So I'm going to hold off on McMillan from my top 21. Same thing goes here for Burden. I just think with Burden, one of the main reasons why I'm going to hold off to him is had a good 2023 season, but 2024 was a bit of a slump. And also I think he's going to cause you a lot of headaches off the field, kind of like George Pickens does already. So we're going to hold off on him for now. Edge here, I'm going to look at edge one more time. Michael Williams is there, though lined up outside the tackle, over the tackle. I think you're going to line him up as an edge and not a defensive tackle or an outside linebacker. But here's the thing. I'm looking for more of a nose tackle type. So I'm going to bounce out Keanu Benton to fill in Larry Ogunjobi's spot, and I still got Cam Hayward. So I think I'm going to hold off on Michael Williams for now. Again, Michael Williams, looking at everybody, mostly everybody on this list, I think I'm going to hold off on him at 21. So, and then let me check linebacker here. No, don't need linebackers anywhere right now. Got a young Peyton. Just thinking about young guys that we have at linebacker. You got Nate Herbig, Peyton Wilson, Patrick Queen's still pretty young, and you just signed him to a big contract. So not really committed to taking a linebacker here. And then you got safeties here. Safety isn't the biggest need, but we may end up coming back to this. All right, so fill out the final three here. Mike Green, I have little interest to him. Bit more like I don't think he fits the scheme for the Steelers. Also a little bit underweight there at 248. No doubt, I think he'll have the opportunity to be a great player in the NFL, but not necessarily my cup of tea at pick 21. All right, so going to get this out of the way. I've now talked my way back into taking Jackson Dart at pick 21 if needed. You don't know what you have, when you're going to get an answer from Aaron Rodgers. He's either going to retire, may come to you, but still could be, even though he said he's not doing this, still could be holding out for a more contending team to have a quarterback injury and then go there. Besides, even if Rodgers does sign, late in the process, how good is he going to be? Mason Rudolph, he might hold down the fort for a little bit, but he'll be pretty rough and he could get hurt. But Jackson Dart, definitely think he'll be in consideration at 21 if he's there. Just think too good of a prospect, and your current quarterback situation has painted you into this corner of having him in your top 21. Next here, I'm going to go with this one first. I am going to go with another defensive back, and I'm going to go with a safety who I think is an absolute freak of nature. Nick Emenwari from South Carolina. This dude is like if DK Metcalf was a safety, and you just take him because you got that raw athleticism and talent. You take him and you see how to fit him into your puzzle later. Also, Deshaun Elliott, I believe he signed a 2-year contract, so he's going to be going into the last year, or if it's a 3-year deal, the second to last year of his contract. You don't know if he's going to have a repeat performance of last year when he was arguably one of your best defenders. Minkah Fitzpatrick, he's had a couple of down years in a row now, and his future is very uncertain. And your third safety right now is Juan Thornhill, who you signed to a 1-year deal. So Nick Emenwari as sort of a high-end pick for the future who you can get on the field maybe as a run defender because he's so large. You can learn him up some coverage stuff to make him better in that aspect. But too good of a prospect, raw athlete to not take here at 21 if, certain things go certain ways that aren't beneficial. Also, Emenwari, I would have him in my top 21. Like, say he's a last resort here, one of the last resorts. I take him because out of the fear that he's going to go here, 27 to the Ravens, and they're just going to put him with Kyle Hamilton and really, really mess things up for you. It's another thing, too, with the draft. You draft to best combat teams in your division. Last pick here. I have been going back and forth here between these two, both defensive linemen. Again, no interest in McMillan. Malachi Starks, good safety, but not interested. Not interested in either of the linebackers, Jahad Campbell or Jalen Walker. Got 2 tackles, the 2 best tackles in this draft, in Campbell and Membao. Not interested in Josh Simmons. Had a tiny bit of interest in Calvin Banks, but again, I want a big tackle, and he's just a tiny bit under my liking in terms of size. So last one here, last pick. Going to go with either Michael Williams from Georgia or Darius Alexander from Toledo. Both are right there. Williams, 6'5", 265, very young, 20 years old. He'll be 21 when the season starts. Last year, 5 sacks, 6 QB hits. So going from Williams here to one of the younger defensive line prospects here to one of the older ones, Darius Alexander. Age isn't listed here, but I believe he'll be 25 when the season starts, if he's not already 25. 6'4", 310. Stats here: 4 sacks, 8 hits, 25 hurries. Great for the Toledo Rockets. Also got to watch at least one game of film on him against Pitt in, I believe it was the game above bowl this past season. It was like around Christmas time. So got to see Alexander. I believe he actually picked the ball off or recovered a fumble and ran it back for a touchdown in that game. So that obviously gives me brownie points. So more and more talking my way through this, I think it's going to be Alexander. If all of these guys are off the board, then even if Nick Emanwari's there, I think defensive tackle is just such a big need. Even though he's one of the older prospects at 25, still though he's younger than what you got on the defensive line. You hope he and Keanu Benton can grow together into key parts of that defensive line once Cam Hayward retires here, hopefully long in the future, because he's still got a lot left in the tank. But Darius Alexander, position of need, great production. Believe he tested well too at the Combine and Pro Day. And also the Steelers, I believe they love their MAC guys. So gonna look here, take one last look. Again here, ignore these, picks 21 or 22 on. Let me see, is there a way I can reduce the size of this screen to make sure this all fits? Forget it. So 3 quarterbacks in my top 21: Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, and then Jackson Dart. Because you need a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers leaning towards retirement. You'll need someone to understudy Mason Rudolph or possibly start over him right off the bat. 2 running backs, both elite players. They're going to be elite players in the NFL, in my opinion, Genty and Hampton. 5 defensive tackles. I said it was 4. You got your 4 bona fide guys here, but if all 4 of them, for some reason, probably not going to happen, but you can't rule it out. If all 4 of these guys go in the top 20, Darius Alexander, if the cards fall the right way, will be your pick at 21. Also, just 5 defensive tackles. Need a defensive tackle. Corner, 3 corner. Discard Travis Hunter because he's not going to be there. Will Johnson and Jahdae Barron, if they're both somehow there at 21, they're very worth a conversation in that draft room of taking and just say, hey, let's make this strength an undeniable strength. Give Joey Porter a partner out there, and we got 2 young studs at corner for years to come, hopefully. 2 edge rushers. Again, Carter, top 5 pick, going to be gone well before the Steelers. But Shamar Stewart here, if you can get him to learn under TJ Watt and Cam Hayward, he's got the God-given physique and athleticism and skills to be productive. It's just a matter of actually getting the production. Also with Stewart, you take him. I guess I could have made this argument for Williams, but I still stand by leaving Darius Alexander in my top 21. I could have made this argument for Michael Williams, but Stewart, you put him as an edge rusher. You keep Keanu Benton at nose tackle, defensive tackle, and hope he figures things out there. Matthew Golden, Emeka Egbuka, my 2 wide receivers, who I think best fit what the Steelers are looking for. Golden, I think he's going to be an elite playmaker at the next level. Egbuka, good soldier, also good production. Love to have him. Tyler Warren, no way he's there at 21, but if he is, you just forget that he's a tight end. Think of him as a pass catcher. Boom, he's another weapon. Will Campbell, Armand Membo, 2 guys who aren't going to be there, 2 guys who probably aren't going to be of interest to the Steelers. But if they're at 21 and all of these, guys at position of needs are gone, take one of them if they're there, and you figure out later how you want to put, one of those 2 guys with Fa'utanu and Jones. And then, of course, here I also got Nick Emenwari as a safety. Again, safety, maybe not necessarily this year, but next year, you don't know if you're going to have all of those guys there. And Emenwari, like I said, is a freak of nature athlete, and I think will be good at the next level. Also, again, fearful that he'll go to the Ravens at 27. So I think the Steelers and Ravens have played this game before where it may not be the biggest of need for myself, but I'm going to make sure if I can't have what I want, I'm sure as hell going to make sure that you don't get what you want. So that's pretty much my mindset there with Emenwari, on top of him being DK Metcalf playing safety. So interested in hearing what you guys think of that. Let me know in the comments below. But that's my top 21 picks for the Steelers Thursday night. Now, are 20 of those 21 guys going to be gone in the first 20 picks? Absolutely not. But could go back to that later for reference. And I will say I feel very confident sitting here right now that someone out of that top 21 is going to be a Steeler. Maybe even 2. Who knows, depending on if the Steelers trade back in the first round, which I think they should do. And maybe they get like a late first round pick and a second round pick. 2 of those 21 fall and the Steelers pick up 2. So we'll have to wait and see. Real quick, just going to go through a quick stroll on Twitter to see if anything is going on, any breaking news. Anything massively out there right now. Just more and more debates. Jackson Dart or Shadur Sanders for the Steelers quarterback. We are in QB mania right now. All right, so actually we do got a bit of news. It's minor, but I will add it in here. Also kind of plays into what I'm about to talk about. This from Josh Carney of Steelers Depot. According to ESPN's Adam Schefter, the Steelers have sent their quarterback coach Tom Arth to North Dakota State to meet with QB Cam Miller. Miller had a great showing at the East-West Shrine Bowl in January after an FCS championship with the Bison. So Cam Miller, don't think he's going to be a draft pick by the Steelers. If so, it would be in the 6th or 7th round. Not really too interested in him. I'll do some more work on him to get him on my prospect list before Thursday night, but Cam Miller, maybe he's that 4th QB that Omar Khan talks about. Khan saying we always take 4 quarterbacks into Latrobe, and we're going to get 2 more on this roster, whether it be free agency or the draft. So Cam Miller could be that late round pick or priority free agent signing that the Steelers bring in to Latrobe, and then probably either stick him on the practice squad or cut him. But interesting. I will bookmark that for later. Going to move on here to some more rumblings of Shedeur Sanders to the Steelers. This is in no particular order, and it's really just getting thrown together. First off here, again, Adam Schefter, he is everywhere today, and he's going to be everywhere leading up to the draft Thursday night and beyond. But article came out on ESPN today on his website talking about what Schefter is hearing, some notes that he has heading into Thursday night, and skipping past the Giants and Saints here, who I'm sure he has a ton of quarterback talk. Down here at the Steelers, he said that the Steelers had not been planning to draft a QB in round 1, but they also were not expecting Shedeur Sanders to potentially fall out of the top 10. Now, again, Omar Khan loves this saying, and now it's come onto the mind here of Adam Schefter. All options seem to be on the table, and they are preparing in case they have the option to draft Sanders. Schefter also said the Steelers would possibly trade up to secure a quarterback, even though they don't have a second-round pick that went to Seattle in the DK Metcalf trade. However, he said it makes it more likely that the Steelers will trade back in the draft, not up, if Sanders isn't there. And also, because they don't have a second-round pick, that makes it more and more likely that they're going to trade back. I believe I also saw something today that potential partners for the Steelers are picks 30 through 32, the Bills, Chiefs, and Eagles. So I'm cool with that. If you get a second round pick and you just pick later in the night on round 1, still decent odds that defensive tackle of your liking is going to be there. Maybe not necessarily the one that you want, but hey, if you can get your 3rd, 4th, or 5th defensive tackle, or if you can get your 4th or 5th defensive tackle and a second round pick compared to just sticking and picking your 2nd or 3rd defensive tackle and then needing to wait all the way till pick 83, I could live with that. See, reading more here of what Schefter had to say. In the eyes of some across the league, it feels Sanders could go as high as number 3 to the Giants or as low as number 21 to the Steelers, with a potential team trading up anywhere between 4 and 20 if he does not go to the Saints at number 9. So Schefter pretty much just saying, setting up to be a very interesting night come Thursday. Going to be maybe not as many twists and turns as expected, like as we've seen in years past, but still though, could be seeing lots of twists and turns. So I believe that's all Adam Schefter said today, pretty much just stating the obvious that the Steelers are preparing in case Shedeur Sanders is there at 21, possibly trading up for him, even though it's unlikely because they don't have a second round pick, and that they're more likely to trade back than trade up. Also, here there was this Instagram post here today, and you can't ignore seeing this. So First Take, the ESPN show, their official Instagram, tweeted a reel today of Stephen A. Smith saying that he wants Shedeur Sanders to play for the Steelers, asking the question, could you see Shedeur Sanders in Pittsburgh? Question mark. Click on the likes of that Instagram, and you will see it is liked by Deion Sanders, Shedur's dad and head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes. So Deion, Mike Tomlin, that is a very respectful relationship. Rumors are out there that Mike Tomlin is absolutely in love with Shedeur Sanders. Then you got other rumors, I think, where his meeting with the Steelers did not go well. But, I mean, hey, it's lying season, and I think that is more of a lie than a truth. So, yeah, Deion Sanders liking First Take's Instagram post of Shedeur possibly going to the Steelers. And I want to read a lot into that, but I also think now more that I, thinking about this, that Deion has done this with some other things as well, liking posts about Shedeur possibly going to the Saints, him possibly going to the New York Giants, the Raiders, stuff like that. So not out of it's not really a guarantee. Deion wants Shedeur to go to the Steelers first and foremost, but we do know now that Shedeur and Deion both like Pittsburgh as a potential landing spot for him. Also, this within the last hour, Nick Farabaugh, who is a beat reporter for Penn Live on the Steelers on 93.7 The Fan this afternoon, said it would be, quote, smart money on Shedeur being the Steelers' first round pick. So more and more signs are pointing to Shedeur possibly being the Steelers' pick at 21 if he's available. Should make for a fun yet stressing anticipation for night one of the draft. Like I said, I will be live covering that. I hope you all join me back here then. Should be a very, very fun time. Got all of my graphics together for that evening, so can't wait for Thursday night. Also going to hit on this. Was going to save this for the, later random news stories. But in that same article that Adam Schefter had on the Steelers leaving all options on the table in case Sanders is available, later on he also put out a list of potential night one trade candidates, players already on NFL rosters who could be traded night one. He had George Pickens on there. Again, Schefter, you're probably putting that in there. You may or may not already know this. Could be possibly putting this in there just to get some clicks and reactions. But Pickens isn't going anywhere. He's not going to get traded. I'm not going to dismiss it completely. So I rescind my statement of saying he's not going to get traded. I'm going to rephrase it saying he is very, 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 very highly unlikely to get traded on night one of draft night. I think the Steelers want to see what it looks like. Beat reporters have said this. They want to see what it looks like having two behemoths out there in Metcalf and Pickens. Don't see them trading Pickens to get a second round pick back or move up in the first round. At that point, you're just creating the problem that you just filled all over again. What was your problem last year? You had no wide receiver of real that really makes teams scared behind George Pickens. You had none of that. Go out and get DK Metcalf. Now you got two great wide receivers. Why would you trade Pickens again just to wind up back at square one, needing another wide receiver? And also, Brooke Pryor, Steelers beat reporter for ESPN, said that she thinks the Steelers are continuing to trend towards an extension with George Pickens. So not only are they highly unlikely to trade George, but also could be giving him some money. I don't think they give it to him this year, but maybe if things go right for him, he will get a payday with good behavior. Okay, next here, going to move on to some Pittsburgh Pirates talk. So that might have been the worst weekend of Pirates baseball I have ever seen in my life. I am not exaggerating when I say that they were non-competitive against the Cleveland Guardians, a team that they should aspire to be, smaller market team who spends their fair share of payroll and are competitive. They should aspire to be Cleveland. Good luck getting me to say that phrase in football terms. But they were non-competitive against them up until the ninth inning of yesterday's game. Let's start with game one of this series. Right off the bat, literally, it seemed like the Pirates might continue their good fortunes from the Nationals series into this weekend after O'Neal Cruz hit a home run on the first pitch he saw in the bottom of the first. After that, things went sour quickly. Carmen Mlodzinski showed why his future is most likely him in the bullpen as a long reliever more than him being a rotational guy. Kyle Nicholas must have gotten whatever bad juju David Bednar and Colin Holderman have, as he gave up 5 runs in just 1/3 innings pitched, and the bats fell completely flat until it was too late to make a comeback. Game 2 on Saturday started off swimmingly for the Pirates before first pitch. Hope you catch my sarcasm there. Left-handed pitcher Tim Meza got put on the 15-day IL, and right-handed relief pitcher David Bednar, after 2 weeks in AAA, got called back up. Also, Colin Holderman, he began a rehab stint on Saturday with AAA Indy, so he'll be back sooner rather than later. PNC Park was packed out for a Paul Skeens start and a Skeens bobblehead giveaway. And after running out of bobbleheads for those attending the game, the Pirates got an extremely rare PR win, putting out a statement saying that anybody who scanned a ticket into Saturday's game, if they did not receive a Skeens bobblehead, they will get one once the Pirates make more. So that's even more rare than the Pirates actually winning on the field. They get a PR win. Good on Bob Nutting and Travis Williams for, giving bobbleheads to those who didn't get one. It was a highly sought after bobblehead. For the first time in forever, they did something right, and do not get used to me saying that they did a good job. That will be the first and last time I say something positive about those two individuals, probably for the rest of this season. Back to the game, Skeens had a decent start for his standards and recorded his 200th career strikeout. Unfortunately for him, just like too many times last year, we've seen that story before. We're seeing it again here in 2025, year 6 of this regime. Skeens got no help whatsoever from the Bucs bats, and they just constantly kept hitting into double plays with runners in scoring position. Their clutch batting was atrocious, and the Pirates lost 3-0, barely getting 6 hits in that ball game. As if the loss wasn't embarrassing enough, the Pirates once again put more heat on themselves by muting a very audible "Sell the Team" chant on the Pittsburgh Sportsnet broadcast. That went viral, that they muted the fan mic, and yeah, things are going very well for them with that whole debacle. Lastly, about Saturday's game, how ridiculous was it that Emmanuel Valdez, he hits a ball into the gap? Should he stayed at second? Probably, but he goes to third, he slides, has a hand on the bag, his shoulder is hurt, he can't move his other arm, at least in that time. He's all right now, but he's there on the ground, got one hand on the bag, screaming in pain, asking for time. The umpire just stands there for 10 seconds, not giving him time. And then he lifts his hand for a split second to say, "Please, can I get time? My shoulder hurts. I can't move my arm here. You see me clearly in pain." Tag gets put on him. He gets called out. Ridiculous there that he wasn't given the benefit of the doubt. Like, I'm clearly on base. I haven't moved my hand here for 5 seconds. Give me time, dude. Just, that was absolutely ridiculous on the umpire's part. But I guess, you could say that that is adding injury to insult instead of the other way around of that saying, adding insult to injury. But On the Sunday, exact same thing happened to Mitch Keller, who didn't have his best stuff on the mound, but did enough to have the Pirates in that game. Pirates continued their streak of not scoring a single run with Keller on the mound, dating back to the last time a run was scored for the Bucks with Keller on the mound. The home opener, I think, in the fourth inning of the home opener back on April 4th. So Keller has now gone 3 consecutive starts without getting a single run of run support with him on the mound. Down 4-1 in the ninth inning. It was appropriate that on Easter Sunday there was a divine intervention that somehow got the Bucks bats going, and oddly enough, it was against the Guardians closer Emmanuel Clase. The Bucks strung together a brief spurt of competent and clutch offensiveness, and they tied the game up 4-4. However, Pirates losing was an inevitability. Guardians just needed 1 extra inning to get the win 5-4. So, I mean, when is enough going to be enough with this team? This is a whole new low that I didn't think that the Bucks could reach. So you had all of that going on with the games. All of that, what I just said within the past couple of minutes, was bad. On top of that, listen to this. Saturday, 90 minutes before game, left fielder Tommy Pham, starting left fielder Tommy Pham, who is batting 5th that day, he's standing outside the stadium on the sidewalk like a common fan, just standing there, Bucks warm-up gear, like for warming up, stretching on the field and whatnot. He's out there just standing there on the sidewalk. I think he had his phone with him, waiting like he's getting Uber Eats or calling for a taxi or something. Like, hey, wifey, bring me my cleats or something. I forgot those at home. Or, man, I could really go for, a steak on a stone from North Shore Tavern. Free publicity there for steak on a stone. Let me go out there and get that Ubered here, even though it's right there on the corner of the stadium. So that was weird in and of itself. Just that Tommy Pham, 90 minutes before game time, as fans are filing into the stadium, he's standing out there waiting for something. Said the fire or the sell the team chants on Saturday that got muted out. That wasn't the only anti-Bob Nutting chant to happen this weekend, as at the RBC Heritage Golf match on whatever national TV channel this was, golf player drives the ball, and right after he hits the drive, you can hear someone scream, "Fire Bob Nutting." So the sell the team DFA Bob Nutting movement is growing more nationwide. Love seeing that. National TV, first time you hear a, well, I mean, I guess you can count Pat McAfee's Big Night Out from 2 weeks ago. If you want to count that as national TV, that was streamed live on YouTube to a national audience. But on TV itself, RBC Heritage Golf match, fire Bob Nutting chant there. And in this one, probably the most frustrating, mind-numbing thing from this weekend, you had Ben Cherington. I believe this was before Saturday's game, either before Friday or Saturday's game. No, it was actually during or after Saturday's game. This was a comment he made on the long lines for the Paul Skeens bobblehead. He said, quote, "You can start to think ahead to a playoff game. That's what you want this environment to be. It's incredibly motivating because we want to get there, to win more games so we can get there. Believe we will." You can start to think ahead to a playoff game. You, Pirate fan, who have been through hell the past decade now and have watched 6 years of this regime, Bob Nutting, Ben Cherington, Derek Shelton, not accomplish a damn thing. You can start thinking ahead to playoffs at the record of 8-15. Dead last in the NL Central. It's getting dark early. We spent I don't think no more than $20 million in total offseason acquisitions this offseason. We're bottom of the league in payroll. But you, just because we saw a long line for a Skeens bobblehead, one of the best players in the MLB, you can start thinking ahead to playoffs because we're magically going to get there off of the power of analytics and positive thoughts. Be real, Ben Cherington. You, honestly, Derek Shelton, he should be fired right now on the spot. The Bucks are going out west to play the Los Angeles Angels and the Los Angeles Dodgers. You should fire Shelton, I should say, right now. Make the bench coach Donnie Kelly, who I think it's been a common understanding or idea for years now that he's just a manager waiting for his shot. Make Donnie Kelly the bench coach, and then you send him out on the West Coast where it's 10 o'clock start times, and you're going to have half the fan base asleep for most of those games. Now, that quote right there makes me think more and more that you should be the one to go first, Ben. You have the audacity to see this 8-15 team with no offense, who now I think has squandered 9 or 10 quality starts. They're doing the same exact thing as last year with no offense, 8-15 record. Your biggest offseason acquisitions were a Spencer Horwitz, who has chronic wrist issues that you probably knew about, who you still haven't seen, who hasn't even started a rehab assignment yet. Tommy Pham, 37 years old. Dude sucks occasionally, kind of like Yasmani Grandal last year. He'll get the occasional big hit, but otherwise, 95% of the time, dude is absolutely ass out in left field. 33-year-old Adam Frazier, who still got the gloves, still got the defensive purposes. I understand that, having a guy who doesn't necessarily have the bat, but has the defensive skills. Unfortunately, you're playing him every day now with Nick Gonzalez, and it's not like you had a need for a defensive first player with, utility capabilities. That's why you have Jared Triolo. That's why you have Nick York down in AAA and Billy Cook down in AAA. Why are we giving Adam Frazier, 33-year-old, who's, I don't even know his batting average, but it's under 200, kind of like everybody else on this team, who's not named Brian Reynolds or Andrew McCutchen. Why are we giving Adam Frazier those at-bats compared to Nick York and Tommy Pham? Or Nick York and Billy Cook, I should say. Forget Tommy Pham. He's just on my mind, too. So those are your big 3 offseason acquisitions. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt so far on Andrew Heaney, but all you can do right is pitching, so not really going to give you high praises for that. Just, I don't know. This is borderline unwatchable. I mean, once the Bucks went down, I don't know, what was it, 8-1 or whatever on Friday's game, I shut it off. I used my time more wisely than that. Turned on something else. Saturday, watched the game in full just because it's Paul Skeens. And then Sunday, Easter, watched the game on and off with, other things going on. But once I saw they were down 4-1 with in the 7th inning, I turned that off for a while until I saw on the MLB app that, they were starting to put something together. Just unwatchable. It's the same thing night after night without fail, and they're not changing a damn thing yet. If Bob Nutting is truly fire and brimstone angry right now, these guys should be, even if you take them out to LA, leave them in LA. Make Donnie Kelly the bench coach, or make Donnie Kelly the bench coach, the manager. Fire Ben Shelton, or fire Ben Cherington. It's either the same person, Ben Shelton and Derek Cherington. There you go. Ben Cherington, he needs to be fired before the MLB draft. Look at his draft record. His only good pick is Paul Skeens, which, hey, anybody could have picked Paul Skeens. Beyond that, Henry Davis, you don't know if he's going to be any good for you. you're putting him behind Joey Bart right now, refusing to give him at-bats as games go on. Beyond that, Tamar Johnson isn't here yet. Connor Griffin isn't here yet. You haven't developed a single hitter. Maybe Nick Gonzalez, if you want to name one half-decent hitter in the MLB, but Cherington needs to go before this draft. We cannot afford him making another draft pick. Okay, let me get a drink here because my mouth got very, very dry on that rant. Sorry, just absolutely terrible weekend of baseball. And thank goodness that, they're going out to the West Coast against the Angels and the Dodgers. Dodgers are going to destroy them. Angels, they're probably going to, beat them once or twice as well. Probably take 2 out of 3. I'll give them one game against the Angels. But at least we got the NFL draft here Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That will take all of our, or most of our attention off the Bucks. Let's move on here to some Pens chatter real quick. So Kyle Dubas today spoke with the media at the UPMC Sports Complex. I got to watch most of his media availability, and I also got some quotes of his bookmarked here from various reporters who were in the room at the time. First off, Dubas talked about the status of the team heading into the offseason, said, when I look today, maybe we had less points than we had last year, but I feel like we're slightly better positioned as we move ahead because of the younger players here. I'm more optimistic going into next year than I was organizationally. The results are going to be what they're going to be, but I feel we're closer to where we want to get back to now than last year. Agree with that. I mean, did a great job, in my opinion, capitalizing off of a complete and total seller's market. You got rid of maybe not necessarily some bad players, but some players who weren't going to be part of your long-term future. Marcus Pettersson, Drew O'Connor, Anthony Beauvillier, Lars Eller. So, again, agree with that. The younger players, he'll talk about them more up here. I'll mention them again. Then Dubas, this is probably quote of the afternoon here. Apologize. I try to keep things PG here. I only say certain words that can be considered swear words, but I'm going to use this one here. Dubas, quote today, "You can hope in one hand, shit in the other, and see which one fills up first." That is an all-time quote for Kyle Dubas talking about some certain players on the team, one of which that he gave sort of a backhanded comment here today was Erik Karlsson. Dubas on Karlsson saying, quote here, Erik is and will forever be a polarizing figure. My view would be we expect him to be one of the people who pulls us from where we're at into contention. I had a long meeting with him. My push would be his actions have to match his ambitions. He showed throughout the year he has another level to him. Now, a part of that quote, his ambitions have to match his play, or his actions have to match his ambitions. I think that is Karlsson wanting to be a top player and a top producer for the team, but that is also Kyle saying you are an atrocious defenseman as a defenseman, and you need to clean that up. Also, Dubas mentioned the Four Nations face-off, which if you did not watch the Four Nations face-off tournament as it was going on, go and watch some highlights of Team Sweden from that tournament, because that was like us as Penguins fans. We watched that and we're like, where the hell has this Erik Karlsson been? That is the Ottawa Senators Erik Karlsson that we thought we were going to get when we traded for him from San Jose. So hopefully Dubas's comment there either lights a fire under Karlsson to become a better player next year. But also, when you give a backhanded comment like that, I think, that is going to feed the speculations of Karlsson getting dealt this offseason. And I'm leaning more towards that than the other way around. Karlsson, if you even have to eat $3 or $4 million off of his salary, you're going to get more salary back getting $10 million off the Bucks to use in free agency or to bring in other players. Also, Chris Letang, he still showed, even with Karlsson, that he's the Pens' top defenseman. And I would much rather have Harrison Brunick, right shot defenseman, I believe. Absolute stud prospect defenseman for the Pens in training camp last year. Did well with his junior team, and then he's currently doing well with the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. Going to be for them in the AHL playoffs. I'd give Harrison Brunick an honest shot to make the team next year. And if moving Erik Karlsson on so that Brunick can get a roster spot and learn from Letang, if we have to move out Karlsson to do that, I'm doing it. I'm sorry, Karlsson, but you're a hell of a player. Just we expected more from you when you came here, and we haven't gotten it from you. Just again, another addition here to Dubas's quote. He had moments of great play with too many inconsistencies. We have to push him to get there. So yeah, it'll be a talking point all off season long with the Pens. Is Karlsson going to stay here? Is he going to go? So we'll have to wait and see. But Kyle Dubas laying it on heavy to Karlsson here. Speaking of another person who it will be questionable if he is going to be with the Penguins once this offseason concludes. Kyle Dubas spoke on Mike Sullivan today, said that Sully is an elite coach, noted that he's under contract, and said he intended to be the coach here last week. Sullivan said, Dubas praising Sully, saying that he's a rare coach that you don't see too often, and he would want to see a team through a time like this. Also said, with Sully, the sort of, what's the word here? The assumption and the, stereotype that Sullivan doesn't like playing young players. Dubas said that Sullivan, with the Penguins contending for years, hasn't had that opportunity up until this year. And then again, end of the year, you saw Rucker McGroarty and Ville Koivunen out there in very meaningful times. Look at that game in St. Louis. So just talking about Sullivan as if, there was a possibility for him to leave. I don't think Sullivan's going anywhere. Still got time on his contract. Boston guy working for a Boston or an team owned by a Boston sports group in Fenway Sports Group. So Sullivan is going to be staying put, in my opinion, but Dubas just had to say all that today. Talking more about the players themselves and the team himself, answering a question, I believe, about what area needs the most work, what position needs the most work this offseason, and I agree with this. Dubas said, our defense group is an area of major concern at the NHL level, an area of major focus for us. Focus on that, please. Right shot defenseman, if you keep Erik Karlsson, that side is all set. You got Chris Letang, Erik Karlsson, and then whoever you want down there. Maybe it's a rookie. Maybe it's someone already on roster. Maybe it's a free agent acquisition. Left side, after Marcus Pettersson got traded, you look down that list. Matt Grzelcyk, year for the Penguins, though some fans seem to have it out for him. Ryan Graves, atrocious contract, even more atrocious player. And then you got Jack St. Ivany, who was hurt. Ryan Shea, he got an extension, but do you really want to commit to him being a top 4 defenseman, anything more than a bottom pair defenseman? No. And Owen Pickering, is he going to be up there? Maybe, but you can't rely on him just having a spot and just being good there. So said left side of the defense group is going to be a major focus. More and more I talk about it. I believe he mentioned Matt Grzelcyk today, saying that, well, Grzelcyk, first off, in the ending of the locker cleanouts 2 days ago, said that he would want to, or 3 days ago, this was on Friday, the Pens did their locker cleanouts. Grzelcyk said that he had a career year with the Penguins and he would like to stay. DUBAS said he's going to be in contact with Grzelcyk about, potential plans moving forward, maybe some contract negotiations. But more and more I think about it, sure, I take Matt Grzelcyk. I mean, he's not the sexiest option out there for you, but if you can maybe offload Ryan Graves or Erik Karlsson, get one of those big contracts off the books, I'd be willing to bring back Grzelcyk as a third, at most second pair defenseman. He was your top power play defenseman for most of the year, so more and more I could talk myself into re-signing Matt Grzelcyk. DUBAS said younger players who they expect to make a push on the blue line include Jack St. Ivany, Owen Pickering, and Harrison Brunick. Up front, everybody that had a chance due to injury, it would be the same people in camp. So, yeah, Penguins are going to give some young defensemen a shot, but I think they need to move one of Graves or Karlsson out and sign a left shot defenseman of note and break the bank for that left shot defenseman. I mean, I think they traded for him, but DUBAS throughout this press conference said that the Penguins are looking to have a second chance, a second window with this core of winning, like the Washington Capitals right now. And one acquisition that the Capitals have, that they gave this guy big money recently with an extension, I believe they traded for him, was Jacob Chychrun. If the Penguins can get a Jacob Chychrun, a great left shot defenseman who's bona fide number 2, not going to be your number 1. You still would have your number 1 in Letang or Karlsson. But if you can get Chychrun, a solid top pair left shot defenseman, that is what they need to do. Also, I believe DUBAS said that just going down the defenseman in the pipeline, they need to add there as well to add more defensive prospects. So Pens are picking 9th right now, or they're scheduled to pick 9th in terms of odds. If they somehow in the lottery get a top 3 pick, I believe there is a left shot defenseman up there. I believe it's Logan Schaefer, something like that. Anyways, but don't rule out them taking a good, 3 defensemen in this year's draft and then bringing in more in free agency. So we hit on defensemen there. Forwards, he pretty much addressed the forward group, saying that he would like to get more solid wingers for Evgeny Malkin. Gino really went through a lot of line mates this year. Just going to fire him off rapid fire here. Connor Dewar, Danton Heinen, Philip Tomasino, Ricard Raquel, Tommy Novak, Ville Koivunen, and so many more, including those guys who have gotten traded. But so DUBAS said finding solid wingers for Gino would be great. Now, here's where I think you're going to see possibly one of those wingers be a free agent. If you keep your top line together of Ricard Raquel, Sidney Crosby, Brian Rust, Ville Koivunen, he's for sure going to be on the team next year. And I would put him on a wing with either Sid or Gino. And Gino would have either Koivunen or Raquel again. After that, make a trade, sign someone, or if you really, really are confident in the kid having a top 6 role right out of the gate, put Rucker McGroarty on the line with him as well. After that, I think you're going to see, this is just me speculating here, I think you're going to see the bottom 6 of the lineup be a mixture of kids, kind of rental free agent signings like last year, Anthony Beauvillier and Cody Glass, and then you'll have Tommy Novak and Blake Lizotte down there as your 3rd and 4th line centers. Also Kevin Hayes, if he will remain with the team. DUBAS said younger. Oh, I read that one already. When it comes to the team itself, DUBAS, quote, "I'm talking only about the potential of the group. The forward group and the goaltending group, I feel, are in a good spot. We have to continue to improve them." So that is a very high vote of confidence, at least on paper, that DUBAS just gave to the goaltending situation. Talking today, DUBAS talked about Jari. He talked about Nedeljkovic. He did say that those two will be getting pushed by the 2 younger goaltenders in Yoel Blomqvist and Sergei Murashov heading into camp next year. Now, will both Nedeljkovic and Jari still be on the roster? I'd say that's unlikely, but we'll wait and see. I think you can probably deal Jari. Maybe you got to trade out a draft pick with him, eat a little bit of salary, but Jari and Nedeljkovic still being on the team next year, unlikely in my book. But DUBAS giving those 2 a high vote of confidence, at least for the time being. And I think that does about it for DUBAS's press conference. So be interesting to see when we hear from him again. That will probably be near the draft, if I had to guess, when we'll hear from Kyle again. So let's move now on here. We'll wrap things up here in short order. Move on to some more Pittsburgh sports news. With the draft on Thursday, NFL draft analyst Chad Reuter put out a 7-round mock draft this morning, and I'll be reading off any mocks from notable people that I see between now and Thursday, starting with this. Round 1, pick 21, he had the Steelers taking defensive tackle Derek Harmon from Oregon. Round 3, pick 83, running back Travis Etienne from Georgia. Round 4, pick 123, quarterback Will Howard, Ohio State. Round 5, pick 156, linebacker Colin Oliver, Oklahoma State. Round 6, pick 185, offensive tackle Ajani Cornelius, Oregon. And round 7, pick 229, offensive guard Marcus Tate from Clemson. Now, I didn't go through the mock in its entirety to see who the Steelers passed on and what players went before each of the Steelers pick. But looking at the Steelers picks, Reuter, his projection, I felt I liked picks in alternating fashion. Rounds 1, 4, and 6, Harmon, Will Howard, and tackle Ajani Cornelius from Oregon. Love those 3 picks. Round 3, Trevor Etienne from Georgia. Could see a running back go in round 3, but not necessarily Etienne. I think it'd be better to use that round 3 pick on multiple other running backs like Devin Neal, Damian Martinez, DJ Giddens. Just trying to think of other running backs off the top of my mind right now. But round 5, linebacker Colin Oliver. Don't really have any interest in a linebacker beyond or before round 6. And then round 7, offensive guard Marcus Tate. Maybe just an offensive line guy, can't body, but you've already kind of signed a bunch of offensive linemen to be on the team for training camp purposes. I think you could spend that round 7 pick much more wisely on another defensive tackle or a defensive back or another running back. Moving back into hockey talk, it looks like Penguins captain Sidney Crosby enjoyed a whole 3 days of the off season. before preparing for next season starting today. Before Kyle Dubas' press conference this morning, Crosby was back on the ice at the UPMC Lemieux Sport Complex, training with a couple of Penguins, including Rutger McGroarty. I think he was just getting back on the ice to maybe shake off some rust, get some skating in before he will rejoin the team, rejoin the Baby Pens for their playoff rush. P.O. Joseph, him back on the ice after injury. Ryan Shea, Vladislav Kolyachonok, and Owen Pickering. I'm sure this was just Sid and a couple of stragglers getting some work in before they all go their separate ways for the summer. But you can't deny Crosby's love and loyalty to the game, and seeing him out there after, just Friday clearing out his locker, took Saturday, Sunday off, back on the ice, practicing and training Monday. It makes it such a harder pill to swallow not seeing him in playoffs this year. But hey, hopefully next year, trust the process. Ville Koivunen and Rutger McGroarty and more young kids are on the way. Youth movement will bring more energy to the city, hopefully more wins. Next, this right now has little to do with the Penguins, but it could later down the line. On Saturday, New York Rangers fired head coach Peter Laviolette, which is no surprise after they missed the playoffs in a high expectation year for the Rags. And I think the Rangers currently hold the number 11 overall pick. Now, if you remember at the trade deadline, the Penguins, or this was before the trade deadline, but still, the Penguins traded Pettersson, Andrew O'Connor to the Vancouver Canucks. The Canucks sent a first-round pick back to the Penguins that was the New York Rangers. Now, that pick is top 13 protected, meaning that if the Rangers pick in the top 13, which they are scheduled to do so, they could choose to reclaim that first-round pick and give the Penguins their first-round pick next year with no conditions at all. Now, 11, close enough to 13. You got to wonder if the Rangers are going to just void reclaiming that pick and give the Penguins that 11th overall pick. But time will tell. Back to, that was just me sidetracked there for a second. Back here to the firing of Laviolette. This move could be of note to the Penguins because not too long after the announcement of Laviolette's departure was made, ESPN NHL reporter Emily Kaplan said that the Rangers will be doing an extensive coaching search for their new head coach, including taking a look at Mike Sullivan if he becomes available. The likelihood, I'd said this already, of Sullivan getting fired or mutually agreeing to part ways with the Penguins is low, with the chances of him becoming the Rangers, a division rival of the Penguins, becoming their head coach even lower. So we'll keep tabs on this situation moving forward, but Rangers getting a new coach. If Sullivan becomes available, they'll look at him, though that's highly unlikely, but it's worth saying here. Lastly, speaking of fired coaches, just a couple of hours ago, news came down that the Seattle Kraken have let go of former Penguins head coach Dan Bylsma. Bylsma, of course, a Stanley Cup champion with the Penguins. This according to Elliot Friedman. Bylsma only lasted one season as Seattle's head coach after some time as the head coach of their AHL team, the Coachella Valley Firebirds, if I'm correct. Bylsma and the Kraken went 35, 41, and 6 this season. I saw they missed the playoffs by 20 points in the Western Conference, which led to Bylsma's exit. Another pair of moves that the Kraken made today was also naming Buffalo Sabres GM Jason Botterill as their new GM, moving former Penguin Ron Francis to a team president role. So Bylsma out up in Seattle, and I believe that now makes, aside from Rick Tocchet up in Vancouver. I believe that now makes just Tocchet and Sullivan as the only former Penguin player or coach to be a head coach in the NHL right now. Okay, let's do one final sweep here through Twitter to see if we got anything else going on. Steelers just posting an hour ago, getting closer to the draft. Again, round 1 Thursday night at 8 p.m. Rounds 2 and 3, 7 p.m. on Friday, and then rounds 4 through 7 Saturday, starting at 12 p.m. Again, I will be live for at least night 1 and 2 of the draft. Also, I forgot to say this. I don't know how I passed this up, but as if it wasn't, on top of all of the crap this weekend for the Bucks, Andrew McCutchen was held out of the lineup for, I believe, yesterday's game, or Saturday's game. I think it was Saturday's game because it was a full house. Andrew McCutchen was held out of the lineup for a game, and he posted on Twitter in reply to someone saying it was an off day, it was off day in quotation marks, with like sort of a non-impressed, annoyed emoji face. So things not all happy between the relationship of Kutch and at least manager Derek Shelton right now. Noah Hiles, Pittsburgh Pirates beat reporter. Some good news, some much needed good news for Pirates Twitter. Torin Maeda, the 10-year-old fan who caught Andrew McCutchen's 300th career homer last season, is cancer-free. Torin's family tells me that he finished treatment in February. He's back to playing organized sports with his fans. Andrew McCutchen 2 minutes ago. So happy for him and his family. Congratulations, Torin, on being cancer-free. Very happy for you. That is absolute awesome news to some very awesome and positive news needed in the world of the Pittsburgh Pirates right now. Thank you, Torin, for providing that. Congratulations. Not seeing anything else right now other than some stuff that we already talked about. So I think we're going to call it. We're going to end it on that high note of Torin beating cancer. So congratulations, Torin. If you ever see this someday, thank you for being an inspiration to us. And with that, I'm going to call things here. Long night on here. So with that, thank you all for watching. Like, share, and comment on this stream. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so that you never miss when I am live. We'll be back here around the same time tomorrow night and Wednesday night, and then there will be no Thursday and Friday night. There will be no sort of just strictly Pittsburgh sports news live stream like this one. If there's any news for any of the teams that isn't draft related on Thursday or Friday night, I'll just mix that in somewhere during the draft. So with that, thank you all for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and I will see you guys back here tomorrow. Love you all. Peace.